Hello, my friends call me Marty. At some point in our lives, most of us have had to ride on a bus of some kind. For most people, it's pretty normal, but for me, it was my worst nightmare. Well, what made it such a bad experience, you may ask? Good question. One person on the bus single-handedly ruined my entire bus riding experience forever. For this video, I'm going to call a particular person Bob Smith. Bob was the bus driver on our school bus number 37. I still remember the bus number because of the extreme amount of terror. I was in grade 3 when I first had the pleasure of riding the school bus with Bob. Not only was this my first time riding on a school bus, it was also my first day attending a public school because before then I was a homeschooler. In case you don't know, homeschoolers are people who do their school at home. They're cool because they can finish their school whenever they want. Typically, I would finish my school around May, so then I would get to have like a month extra of holiday, which is awesome. Luckily, it wasn't me all by myself on Bob's bus of misery. My older brother Quinnan, my older sister Heather, and my younger sister KJ, they were all riding the bus with me. It was their first day of public school too. On the very first day of school, before we headed out the front door to get on the bus, our parents had told us to be very respectful and to call Bob by his last name, Mr. Smith. So as I was climbing up the stairs, I said very politely, "Good morning, Mr. Smith." I kind of sounded like a little pipsqueak back then. And then Bob said, "The name's Bob. Call me just Bob, okay?" So we were like, oh, okay, I guess this guy wants us to call him Bob. But the problem was, our parents had taught us too well. We were so used to talking to with adults with extremely high respect level that it was a habit to be polite. Plus, I'm a Canadian, so that might have something to do with it. So when Bob told us to call him just Bob, that was like a break in our psychology. The next day, as we were getting on the bus in the morning, I said, "Good morning, Mr. Smith. Good morning, Mr. Smith. Bob. Call me Bob." From the vibes we got from Bob, we could all tell Bob was about to freak out on us. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to try really hard to call Mr. Smith just Bob. But when it was time to get back on the bus to get home, we all forgot to call Bob by his first name because we were all tired. So we just called Bob Mr. Smith. It didn't go over very well. But now we could all tell Bob was getting agitated. We were thinking to ourselves, okay, I'm going to try really, really hard not to call Bob Mr. Smith. I personally practiced saying, "Good morning, Bob," in my head, of course, so I didn't look like an idiot. So the next morning rolls around, and as I was getting on the bus, I said, Good morning, Bob." Mission accomplished. Heather and KJ, my sisters, did the same. Be careful to call Mr. Smith just Bob. But when it was Quinnan's turn to say good morning, he said, "Good morning, Mr. Bob." That was our first experience with a Bob freakout mode, so we weren't quite sure what to expect. Bob probably thought Quinnan called him Mr. Bob to be rude or something, but in my opinion, Quinnan was just trying too hard to be polite, and it just kind of slipped out like that. So Bob chewed Quinnan out for a while, Quinnan sat down, and we all made sure to never call Bob Mr. Smith again. Bob had a few basic rules on riding his bus, other than calling him just Bob. The most important rule was to never, ever drop a cracker on Bob's bus. So one day, we were on our way home from school, and we were just minding our own business and everything, when Quinnan decided to eat a salted cracker he had left over from lunch. No big deal, by then it was pretty common for us to eat our leftover food from lunch on the bus. Quinnan pulled the cracker out of his lunch bag and was about to eat it, but then Quinnan didn't know if he should tell Bob he dropped the cracker on the bus or if he should just leave it. Since there was already a ton of trash, like half-empty Coke bottles rolling around on the floor, logic told Quinnan Bob really wouldn't care about the 10 crumbs he spilled on the floor. Quinnan just left the crumbs where they fell, and he didn't say a word. The next day, we boarded the bus as usual, and Bob didn't say anything about the crackers, so we were pretty sure Quinnan was in the clear. But on the way home, as we were getting off the bus, Quinnan told Quinnan to hold up a minute. To sum up, Bob gave Quinnan a lengthy speech about the importance of keeping a clean bus. I just remember thinking to myself, but the crumbs, they weren't even on Quinnan's seat. They were on the floor. I'm pretty sure a few cracker crumbs are irrelevant when you have half-empty Coke bottles rolling around on the floor. You could trip and injure yourself on a pop bottle. A few crumbs aren't going to hurt anybody. At worst, they would feed a few mice. Now that I say it out loud, that's probably why Bob freaked out. Rats are a serious menace in Saskatchewan, Canada. If you've ever had an experience with a savage Norway rat, you'd probably freak out too if some of you saw someone spill some crumbs in your vehicle. But the funny part is, Bob never even cleaned up the cracker crumbs. He just left them there. After chewing Quinnan out, Bob decided the time he'd spend bending over and picking up the crackers just wasn't worth the effort. Eventually, Bob outright banned everyone from eating on the bus, except for himself, of course. Although Bob was a difficult person to deal with, Bob taught us something very important. If you do get caught eating on the bus, Eat faster! I haven't even mentioned the time Bob got the bus stuck, or the other completely useless rules Bob had on his bus. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.